So you've decided on a job or even a career that strikes your interest, and you're wondering what to do next? Well, let's talk about how to land and keep the job. Today we're going to go over what to do in preparation, tips that will help you in the interview process, and if you do get hired, you'll need to know how to keep the job. Preparation. First off, you want to assume that you'll be tested for any drugs and alcohol that might be in your system. I strongly suggest that you start practicing for this test way before you fill out the application. Once you're ready to apply, be sure to fill out the entire application. Doing so will show that you have a thorough interest in the job, and it won't make you seem like a slacker. Most companies these days are very reliant on using one's email address to communicate and share documents through. So be sure to use a basic email address using your name or initials. Almost all applications are going to ask you for prior job experience, but what do you do if this is your first job ever? No worries. Everyone has to start somewhere, and don't be afraid to list things like clubs, team sports, or any groups you've been a part of. Even babysitting and volunteer work can be considered as experience. Another thing applications will ask for is references. You want to make sure that your references know that someone may be contacting them. If possible, it's good to use a coworker or a previous supervisor as a reference because they are able to comment on your work ethic as well as your character. Now, if you do all of these things we just mentioned, you just might receive a phone call from the employer. That being said, you want to make sure that you answer the phone as if you're getting the job.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, don't do that. Also, you want to make sure that you state your name in your voicemail message. It's super frustrating when a recruiter doesn't know who they're leaving the message for.
No one is available to take your call. Please leave a message.
Lastly, clean up all of your social media. After all, it is called social media. So if you're publicly making derogatory comments, post, or uploading provocative photos, don't think for a second that a person that's recruiting you can't or won't look in this direction. Now, let's talk about interviewing. Interviewing in itself can be a very unnerving experience. I mean, you're literally there to have a panel of strangers ask you a barrage of questions and make a judgment call from your responses. This could be terrifying. So here are a few tips that will help you be mentally prepared and be able to carry yourself as someone that will make a great addition to their team. First, you want to make sure to get a good night's rest. There's nothing worse than being groggy and uncomfortable while being interviewed. That being said, you also want to wake up at a decent hour and give your mind some time to get ready. Employers really appreciate when a candidate knows a little bit about the company and the position. So take a little time to do some research, and this will help you in the long run. So you've got your rest, you've done your research, and you're ready to answer any question they throw at you. Well, not so fast. Interviewers aren't rating you by your responses only. Your appearance and your body language is a large factor in their decision making. Now, you don't necessarily need to show up in a suit and tie, but you don't want to show up like you just barely gotten out of bed. Khakis and a polo or business casual will work just fine. Nowadays, with everything going virtual, you may do an interview via video chat, but most interviews will be done in person. If you were doing an in-person interview, make sure to shake hands using a firm grip and shake hands with everyone in the room, beginning with the person nearest you. You want to make eye contact, smile, sit upright, and answer all questions in complete sentences and answer them truthfully. Once the interview is done, ask questions. By asking questions, it shows you have a true interest in the position, and most employers love talking about what they do. While most of these tips apply, here are some things that are good to know that will help you with a virtual interview. You want to make sure that you're seated in a quiet area, and if you're using a phone or a laptop for the interview, don't try to hold it in your hand. Set the phone or laptop on a sturdy surface to prevent any shakiness. Since you're on camera, in your own environment, make sure that you have a decent background in place. If your background looks like you're hosting a party, that may not go over too well. Lastly, don't hesitate to send a thank you note to your interviewers, letting them know you appreciate their time. Now, some tips on keeping the job. First up, safety. It's extremely important to remain safe while at the workplace and to wear your personal protective equipment or PPE. It can save your life. Secondly, be on time. Most of the jobs in the maritime industry run 24/7, and you may have a direct relief that's depending on you. Just as you want your relief to show up on time, you need to do the same for the person you're relieving. Whether working on a vessel in tight quarters or in a cubicle in an office building, you always want to treat people the way you want to be treated. And keep in mind that if you do change departments or transfer boats, every manager leads differently. So be agile and accept the change as it comes your way. One of the biggest tips in this segment is communication. Communicating with your coworkers and managers is key to keeping your job. Always let them know of any issues you may have or any safety concerns that you run across. If you do want to work on a vessel, remember that you will be living where you work, so keep the place neat and tidy, including your personal areas, common areas, and bathrooms. Listen, scrubbing toilets isn't the best job, but I can guarantee that your captain had to do it when he or she first started. As we said earlier, drug testing will happen when you get employed, but for most safety-sensitive positions, you will get randomly tested as well. And if you were to fail a drug test, you'll never be able to work at a DOT-compliant company, ever. Last but not least, be a sponge. Learn, ask questions, and always be open to improvement. Thank you, and happy job hunting.